We get like the fun, wacky ones, like, like, hey, what do you do if a client smacks you on the butt while you're coaching? And guess what? I have an answer because it's happened before and it happens all the time. And I tell every new coach that it's probably going to happen to you. Obviously, like, address the situation with the client and tell them that it's, not appropriate.
For someone who hasn't experienced this, what sort of questions do you get? And also, too, the other flip side, what are some unique kind of observations that you've made, maybe that you didn't see? And I'll use an example. One time, one of our franchise partners is like, one of the biggest value points that I received from the training, not only was like the structure, how to run sessions, the strategy sessions, John's work from, Fitboard Tracker and the client coordinator perspective, but it was actually just meeting the clients and getting to know why they, joined Fit Body Bootcamp and not some other location. So I thought that was really eye-opening. So for you, John, from your lens, what sort of questions you get, and maybe what was like a big aha that, you kind of came to from, working with some of our new franchise partners?
Yeah. So I'll say this first one a little tongue in cheek, but a lot of people say, can I get a copy of that? And whether that's like a template we're using or like something we have on the counter, like the first time sign-in sheet or the strategy session sign-up sheet, it's really just a reflection of like all the processes we have in place that we do really well at our location. And they're really just trying to learn how to replicate that. So they're asking, what are you doing? Like, what's that for? Like, can I get a copy of that? And it seems like really basic questions, but it's just kind of explaining to them. They're like, oh, this is the first time sign-in sheet. This is why you need to have it at your front desk. Like, you need to have that option available for someone to sign up or sign in or take part in all the offerings that you have. But when it comes to, I guess you'd say more like on the back end training, they really kind of want to know about like just the general flow. It's like on Mondays when they come in, that's also my admin day. Mm-hmm. So depending on which location you're at, depending how many coaches and what your staff looks like, it's nice to have your client coordinator to have like a full admin day where they can really focus on account and client cleanup as well as follow-up. So they're actually kind of wondering like, hey, what are you doing behind the computer? We actually had some feedback like, oh, the guy was sitting behind the computer for the first like 2 sessions. And I say that because as Jake mentioned, it's like, hey, we're still running a business. Like there's still things I need to do like on that day. Yeah. So maybe it's just, hey, looking at my emails, like making sure I'm not missing anything important. So I can, again, focus all my attention on the OSE group. But some things you just have to cover first. So they just want to know about my general flow. Like, how do you do admin Mondays? Like, what does that look like? Can I get a copy of that? What are you doing? How are you doing it? So those are the questions I kind of get. Mm-hmm. It's more admin focused, and Jake gets all the fun questions. So, yeah.
Well, before we flip it to Jake about some fun questions, what's probably in kind of the second part of the question, what's the biggest unexpected value that our franchise partners receive from the training? And you don't know that unless they communicate that, but maybe what's one or two things you've heard over the last, X amount of time running these programs?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just kind of grateful for the experience, like just to come and see another location, because it's really kind of, as you talked about, like getting game film. It's like you might be running an awesome location already, because sometimes there's franchise partners that come out and they've already opened, or maybe they're close to opening, and sometimes they're all across the timeline. But I think just to kind of see somebody else's operations and see like the same way of doing something you do every day on a daily basis. I'm a big sports fan, so there's like, if you think about all the hitters getting ready for batting practice, right? Mm-hmm. They're all around taking a pregame batting practice, and it's like even the best hitter can learn from the guy that's up there for his first year. It's like, oh, you're doing this? Like, I've been swinging this bat for 20 years, but I never thought to do it that way. I never thought to put my hands up or my hands down, whatever it is. So they're seeing the same things, the same operations they're doing, but just through a different lens. And sometimes that can just kind of get you out of yourself and allow the room for new ideas to come in. So I think that would probably be the biggest value bomb, is just kind of getting outside of your location and seeing how the same thing is run successfully somewhere else.
Love that. Jake, I'm going to flip it over to you, but to lean into, and you're going to be impressed, actually, both of you, because I'm not a big TV guy. I really am focused a lot of the times, but I just watched the movie Moneyball, and I was inspired.
My favorite movie of all time.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. It's his favorite movie.
So Stephen Hadley gave a presentation, and it was really about like a business perspective, like statistics and looking at numbers and valuing data. So I watched the movie, and there's an opening quote from Mickey Mantle that says, I'm going to butcher this, but I'm surprised for a game that I've lived watched all my life. I'm surprised how little I actually know.
Yeah.
And really kind of what you said is like, for someone doing this over and over again, there's always something to be learned. There's always something deeper that you can like lock into. And that's for me, that's for you, that's for everyone. That's for you watching this as well. So that's a really, important piece of feedback that I got from you.
Yeah. And can I interject one
Please.
thing? Just as they go on and they get to learn about the disc profile, I feel like a lot of our owners are Eagles. So they're very execution focused. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they might not always step back and kind of see things through someone else's lens. So I feel like it can be easy to kind of miss things, especially if you're so dialed into your operations and for all the good, right? You're dialed in, you want to be successful, you want to know the numbers, you want to execute, you want to do all these things, but you're so laser focused, you might not see what's on the periphery, even if you are a big visionary, because you have your big vision going forward, but having different perspectives. So from an owl or a parrot and a dove, if you have them, it's just going to add that much more value to you.
Totally, man. And you've paid me great compliments over the years about learning from me, but I feel like the feeling's mutual, man. I learned so much from both you guys and your style. So there's a lot to be said. If you're watching this and you're not familiar with the eagle, the owl, the bird profiling, which is disc and take flight learning, link to episode 92. We reference this a lot here at Fit Body Bootcamp. Game changer will be able to provide that context. Jake, gonna flip it to you. What kind of questions? What kind of fun questions do you get? That John just laid out?
Obviously we get the fun, wacky ones, hey, what do you do if a client smacks you on the butt while you're coaching? And guess what? I have an answer because it's happened before and it happens all the time. And I tell every new coach that it's probably going to happen to you. Obviously address the situation with the client and tell them that it's, not appropriate. But you just never know when it's going to happen. Obviously a little different with myself being a male, but obviously if someone's doing that to one of our female coaches, that is a huge no-go and a big red flag. But that's just some of the funkier questions. But one of the most asked questions that I get, is because everybody sees how well me and John work together. And obviously we've been working together for 3.5 years now, and I've been with the company for 7. So we work in tandem pretty darn well. I always say, we can talk telepathically. I don't need to ask Coach John about some stuff because I already know what he's going to do next. So as we're coaching on the floor, it just seems so seamless. But that didn't happen overnight. The first couple of months, the first year or so probably was a little shaky. Took us a while to get going with each other. But the biggest question I get asked is, hey, how do I hire a Jake and a John? I want a Jake and a John for my facility. And what I always have to remind everybody is hey, we're an established facility that's been operating we just had our 9-year anniversary. So we're 9 years into this. You're on day -50 still because you haven't even opened yet.
-50.
You're still not even opened yet. So the odds of you getting a Jake and a John right off the bat are pretty slim. That being said, is there ways to minimize all the suckage that coaches bring? Yeah, there totally is. And that's kind of what we go over in that second day in the coaching day when we talk about who to hire and what to look for in a new coach.
The mock interview process.
Yeah, the mock interview process, and our interview process is lengthy. For a gym, not many gyms require 5 interviews to go through. So we have a Zoom interview, then you got to come in for a workout. And then if we like you for the workout, you come in for a mock session. If we like you for the mock session, we have another interview with you. If we really, really like you after that, then we have a final interview with you. So 5 total interviews to get a job at a gym. That seems a little extreme, but it's extreme for a purpose, is because we want the best coaches in the brand. We want the best people for the job, and not everybody is going to be in the right seat on this bus. So we have a bus and we're going down the highway, and not everybody is in the right seat. They might be a great personal trainer. They might be super awesome. They might have all the technical knowledge in the world, but they might not be the best at conveying it. They might not be the best coach. They may not be the best in a group, and heck, they may not be the best in a group of Mrs. Joneses. They might be a best in a group of the 20-something-year-olds or the 16-year-olds, the younger kids. That's not our clientele. Our clientele is Mrs. Jones. She's 30 to 50 years old. She's a mom. She has kids. You need to know how to coach to that. And so like I said, the biggest question I get is, how can I find a Jake or a John? And I try to give them the best that I can in terms of how to find us. And like you said, a lot of times it's about hiring the person. I know that you hired me not off of my technical knowledge. You hired me off of my customer service. And it's taken me far. And obviously I've learned the technical knowledge on the back end. And even to John, it was, even though he has that kinesiology major, he's not just all exercise knowledge.
Yeah.
He's an old soul that we all love, and he's down to earth, and he definitely keeps me grounded as well, because obviously, if I was left on my own, I'd fly off the rails and go crazy. So luckily John keeps me on track and keeps me on the right bus in the right seat, or else I'd be jumping all over to every single seat all over the place.
I'll also just add that I found Fit Body by accident, technically. I was just looking on Indeed. So
Yeah, and it's always just keeping your options. Keeping your options open as well. So like never saying no to someone coming in and being a prospect coach. I'll take like one of our coaches, Coach Kellen, for example. Like she was a client recommendation way back in November when we were looking for a coach. We decided to go a different way, so we didn't go with her, even though we all thought, hey, she's an awesome, like it's a great idea. Like let's keep it on the back burner. And then just a couple of months ago, hey, guess what? We needed a new coach. She was the first one that came to mind. We reached out and she said yes. She left her other job, came to coach for us, signed on as a part-time intern, and now is a full-time coach already after like the 6-week mark because she's such a rock star. And we hired her for her personality and her sociability. We didn't hire her necessarily for her technical knowledge, even though she has that on the back end as well. So that's really the biggest question that I get asked is, like, how do I hire a Jake and a John? And the short answer is, it's going to be really hard at the beginning, but don't worry, your Jake and John will come eventually. But just know that you need to set and establish your facility first, and then you can find your rock stars right after that.
Mic drop, buddy. That's awesome. So true.